You know what? It's not that many stories because I think this is going to take up most all of our episode here today. First of all, two unbelievable games against the Detroit Red Wings. We'll get into that. And the big one, though, which just dropped as far as news goes about, I don't know, half an hour ago, the Senators have acquired defenseman Jacob Chychrun from the Arizona Coyotes. Yes, in their seemingly never-ending quest for that elusive top four defenseman. They've had their eye on Chychrun for a long time, but with less than 2 days to the NHL trade deadline, the two sides finally make a deal. Coyotes sending Jacob Chychrun to the Ottawa Senators. So we'll get into that and much, much more. Steve Warren along with the coach, Greg Kennedy. And yes, it is the Jim K. Ford Sens Nation podcast. How are things, Coach?
Oh, things are great, Steve. I came home to wonderful news. I didn't hear about it. I didn't know anything about it. Walked in the door, checked my Twitter feed, and there it is. Jacob Chychrun. Finally, Steve. It's exciting.
Yeah, it really is. And there was a lot of excitement in those two wins back-to-back in the Sens barn against the Red Wings, a team in front of them in the standings. And the Sens absolutely pounded the Wings the way that I pound wings at Broadway's on half-price Tuesdays. That's how badly they pounded those wings. But the deal, though, that's the big story. And really, it is a tidy bit of business for Sens GM Pierre Dorion. He gets Chychrun, 6'2", 220 pounds. He has offense. He's going to turn 25 later this month. And not only, Greg, does he upgrade the blue line for this, potential late playoff push, but more importantly, he's not a rental. He's under contract for 2 more years after this. And now he's a guy that can grow with the young core here.
Yeah, look at that young core now. Guys between the ages of 20 and 26, let's go with. You've got 3 defensemen in Chabot, Chychrun, and Sanderson. You've got 7 forwards, Norris, Pinto, Gregg, Stützle, Tkachuk, Batherson, and hopefully DeBrincat. And you've got Sogard. What a core of guys between the ages of 20 and 26. Normally, you could look at that and say, some of them are awfully young at 20 or 21, and are they really going to pan out? Well, I think it's pretty safe to say every one of them is going to be okay and play a role here. Even the youngest of them is pretty damn good right now. So this is just, and the fact that it didn't cost them anything.
Yeah,
like it did not cost you anybody off your roster. I mean, after the game last night, I was thinking to myself, okay, after the game that Watson played, wow, how do you now go into the room and say, hey, we're trading you? So I don't think that's going to happen. But I was thinking, all right, maybe they can get away with their first round pick and Mad Sogard to Arizona to get themselves a Chychrun. But to do it this way, and it doesn't cost you anybody off the roster, it didn't cost you Gregg, a Pinto, even a lesser talent in a JBD or a Lassie Thompson, it didn't cost you any player. I think it's phenomenal, and the fans should be thrilled.
Yeah, it's 3 valuable picks. Don't get me wrong. Dorion gave up 3 pretty valuable future assets. But, when it comes to draft picks, it's like the old Forrest Gump line, right? It's like the box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And the Sens know exactly what they have in Chychrun. He's a proven NHL commodity. He has a reasonable cap hit at $4.6 million, and he's under contract for the next 2 years and change for the rest of this year as well. So I totally agree with you. To not give up an existing player, like draft picks right now for a team like the Sens, that's all they've done the last 5 years is draft, right? So their window of opportunity is just now opening up. Not in 4 years when the picks they just gave away finally emerge, and it's the perfect deal. You don't give up a good young player off the existing roster like a Pinto or a Gregg, which were the ones that everybody kept talking about. That's absolutely huge. And you don't make a playoff rental scenario. Chychrun, again, comes in, and he's going to be able to grow with this group. And we should point out, because this happened so recently since we fired up the microphones here, most of the time, any of the hot news, right, has been around for a while.
Yeah.
Some people listening to this right now may just be getting the news from us because it is this fresh. So what Arizona gets from Ottawa, again, 3 picks, and what they are is Ottawa's 2023 first-round pick, Washington's 24 second-round pick, and Ottawa's 26 second-round pick. And there's a lot of conditions in there as well. It gets kind of dry, and you know what, we're a Sens podcast. I better tell people. So
I got it.
Okay. You want to
Yeah,
read them out? Okay, go ahead.
sure. I'll go ahead. The 20. Well, first of all, before we move to that, there it is. We just talking about it. When's the other shoe going to drop on that second round pick they got from Washington for
Yeah.
Connor Brown? Well, there it is. Anyway.
Well, if it
So-
is, it could upgrade to a first.
Right. The first is top 5 protected. So if the Senators end up with a top 5 pick, then it becomes an unprotected 2024 first round pick.
Right.
Second round pick that is actually Washington's. If the Sens make it to the Final Four this year, then that upgrades to a 2024 first round pick, which is top 10 protected. If it ends up being a top 10, then it's an unprotected 2025 first round pick.
That's right.
So really, out of all of that, they're going to give up probably the 2023 first rounder. Won't be in the top 5. That's gone. I don't think you have to worry about the 2024 second rounder unless they make it to the Final Four. So probably what's announced will end up happening without any of the conditions being applied.
Right. So I think we agree we both like the deal. It's not that there aren't any potential downsides, and if there were downsides, it might be that Chychrun has had a hard time staying healthy in recent seasons. But you know what? Like he's not even 25. He turns 25 later this month. And this was around the age where some guy named Daniel Alfredson was being kind of pigeonholed as being an injury-prone Euro, as he was called at the time. And he went on to a pretty good career. So we'll hope that there's nothing chronic there, that's just, he ran into a bad spell of injury early in his career. And the other thing that some people might point to is that he's not that right shot defenseman. I mean, that would have been almost too much to ask for. It's such a perfect-looking deal to me. But he's not a right shot defenseman. He's yet another left shot defenseman for this team. So how do you think from that perspective? I know you're not a big left shot, right shot kind of guy, but some people are. So we should discuss it a little bit.
Yeah, I guess. But who was going to be the right shot? Like, we just finished talking about the fact that this is a guy with 2 years left and it's only, it's 4.6 million a year in the 2 years left. So who were the right shots out there that are in the age range of a Chychrun, that play the sort of game that Chychrun plays? I mean, like you said, he's 6 foot. What did you say he was? 6'4", 220?
6'2".
6'2", 220, right? He's a big, strong, physical guy with some skill, a good chunk of skill, actually. He can certainly play the right side. And I went through the right shot Ds, and we gave a list here one week of 12 guys that we thought looked okay. And out of that, we both liked Ekholm, but I don't think that was going to happen. He's a left shot anyway. I think the other guy we liked was Scott Mayfield with the Islanders, and he's a right shot, but he's 30 years old and a pending UFA. So I think that the combination of the age, the term left on the deal, the contract dollar amount, outweighs anything when it comes to the fact that he's a left shot. He can play the right side, not a problem at all. This guy's going to play your top 4 on the right side and be here for at least another 2 years, and who knows how many beyond that.
Yeah. 41 points in 56 games last season, 21 points in 47 games this season. And let's be honest, the Arizona Coyotes are not world beaters. So I'm really anxious to see what he can do offensively with a team that's sort of on the rise the way the Senators are. And certainly in these last 2 games, 12-3, they outscored the Red Wings. So there's a lot of excitement about this team, quite obviously. But before we get away from Chychrun, a couple of other angles I want to kind of suss out. Yeah. And this was a guy, it's kind of interesting. If you go back to Pierre Dorion's rookie draft in 2016, that was the year that he took your favorite guy, Logan Brown, 11th overall. So Logan Brown is the very first pick that Dorion has as a rookie GM. And there were guys on the board still at that stage that if he's got a time machine or a crystal ball or something like that, he would have loved to have gone back, and Chychrun is one of those. He was chosen 16th overall, so still on the board when Dorion took Logan Brown. But then I go looking, and it's like, Dorion obviously had some favorites at that draft that he never quite shook. So he later revisited 2016 to scoop up the likes of, the aforementioned Chychrun, Julien Gauthier, he was also in round 1. Alex DeBrincat, pretty good one, second rounder. Philip Gustafson, also second rounder. Dylan Gambrell. That 2016 draft really stuck with Pierre Dorion, didn't it?
And he shows a great deal of patience. Right?
Yeah.
I'll eventually get around to getting those guys on my team.
Yeah.
But actually, patience is the key word here too. Let's face facts. The original asking price on Jacob Chychrun was 3 first rounders or first round equivalents. In other words, a player you drafted in the first round, be he in the minors or still in junior or playing in a show. Another one of those same sort of thing, plus a pick. So that's where I was always talking about Pinto and Greg and your first rounder and somebody else. That's why it came down to Thompson or JBD, Pinto or Greg, and your first round pick. So the culmination, the collision of timing and patience, and what's the other word I was using for it? Asking price, right? The asking price came down, the time got less and less. There's less suitors, there's less people looking for this guy. The price drops, and bang, Pierre Dorion jumps in and gets his man.
Yeah. When you look at Chychrun, when he last played a hockey game, he played 29 minutes and 57 seconds. And that's just such a great situation. There's absolutely no excuse now for DJ Smith to overplay Thomas Chabot any longer. You've got Jake Sanderson, who you and I both believe has overtaken, I don't believe DJ Smith believes this, but has overtaken Thomas Chabot as the number one defenseman as far as skill goes on this team. And now he's got Jacob Chychrun, another left shot defenseman, and also a minute eater. There's no further excuse to overuse Thomas Chabot. And I believe the star Thomas Chabot will return. And I've been his biggest critic probably if this guy is dialed back to 20 minutes a night.
I agree totally. Yep. We've all said that. His number, maybe a little more than 20. I think he's fine around 22, 23. You bring in Chychrun, and you might look at his stats and you might look at his, at the end of the day, when you look back on this season, it's yet another one where he didn't play 82 games. But in this case, he didn't play 82 games because he's sitting around waiting and waiting and waiting and this sitting about guys for this pending trade reasons. We sit guys out. Yeah, he was coming off an injury to start the season, but he stays healthy. Hey, I'm okay if he only plays 60 games a year, as long as he's healthy come playoff time in the glorious years. What are the years going to be called again?
The unparalleled success years.
Yeah. In the unparalleled success years, when all these guys are there and at their peak, and who cares about the draft choices because we've already got them all now. We don't need any down the road. I know some people were whining a little on Twitter now that the Sens don't have a pick until the 4th round this summer. The first went to Arizona in this deal. The second went to the Leafs in the Matt Murray deal. No, sorry. The second went to Chicago in the Zaitsev deal. And the third went to the Leafs in the Matt Murray deal. So, okay, you're not picking until the 4th round. You know what? I think there's enough guys here that make up for that, for those lack of draft picks.
Yep. And the Sens scouting staff has done pretty good in the amateur scouting front. They always seem to find a diamond in the rough, even in years where they've given away some of those early picks. You do get in Chychrun maybe the freshest player in the NHL. So if you're having any kind of worry about this guy's injuries, I'm pretty sure he's healed up by now. He hasn't played a hockey game since February 10th, not because he's dinged up or anything or he's been healthy scratched. They did healthy scratch him, but not because he was underperforming, but because they wanted to trade him. And now he's been traded. And so February 10th was this guy's last game. He might even have a little rust on him, but that bodes well for the guy's energy level down the stretch, does it not?
Oh, yeah. And if they truly are going to make a run here, I'm liking this lineup now. I mean, I wasn't convinced of it until the tennis match 6-2, 6-1 of Monday, Tuesday night, or Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it was, the 2 games over Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, until that came along, I don't know that I was convinced that they were really in a playoff run. But now you look ahead at the schedule they've got coming up. There's some opportunity to make some hay here, and I'm looking forward to seeing this. Here it is. Meaningful games in a playoff drive and all that sort of stuff that we've been waiting for. Well, it's here. Let's see what kind of line. Oh, and again, let's see what kind of lineup we end up with. Is there another deal to come? Are some of these older guys still getting moved out? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that at some stage you're going to want to backfill a little bit with some of these guys like, Austin Watson. It's a weird time to say it because he maybe had his best game as an Ottawa Senator. Took the stick to the face, got a couple of goals, a beauty breakaway goal included in there. And but I think that is a guy that you have to make your mind up on if you're going to be moving him. Maybe you can start backfilling. Okay, you don't have, the picks you want right now. Now you can maybe find them again and bring up a guy like from the minors that can maybe play that role. Is anybody going to say, That's crazy different when Scott Sabourin slides in, who, by the way, I think is second in Belleville goal scoring. If he had to come up and play the Austin Watson role, would that make a big difference if you're getting a third rounder or something for Austin Watson at this stage? So I think you'll see a couple more moves just because there are the number of veteran UFAs who are kind of in the bottom half of the roster. I think that you probably will see a couple more.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up Watson. He, to me, was the logical guy all along. And I was thinking at best he's going to bring you a fourth. But then, you start thinking about it. Remember the year Tampa, they brought in Coleman and they brought in, now I can't remember the other guys.
Was it Gaudreau?
Gaudreau, yeah, brought Barclay Gaudreau and Coleman, and they were first rounders. They traded away first round draft picks for these guys. Like, you don't think an Austin Watson, maybe under that circumstance, couldn't get you at least a second? And I wouldn't be surprised, with the doghouse stuff and the sitting out a game and being moved to the fourth line. Is Matthew Joseph a guy that they might want to move? Is that somebody they might look at? Remember also, they've gone through these 2 games against Detroit, looking real good, nice lineup and everything. Ridley Gregg went back to Belleville. So you move a guy out, you got no problem bringing Gregg back in.
Yep.
There's some people that could move here, and I know they said they weren't going to move Hamonic necessarily, but maybe they would for the right price. Nick Holden's still there for the right price. Even Eric Brandstrom for the right price. So some of those draft picks that maybe they don't have in the cupboard can be recouped. I'm not saying they're getting first, seconds, and thirds, but fourth, fifth, sixth. You get a couple picks, and Cam Talbot's still around too. So there is a possibility there that some guys could be moved.
Well, we've already seen how crazy some of the prices are like that. You mentioned Tampa. Well, you can do something even more modern. Just last week, Tanner Jeannot. Right. Tanner Jeannot being traded. He's a 14-point scorer this year. He's better last year. But Tanner Jeannot at 14 points. He's a bit of a shift disturber, but 14 points. And Tampa took him on and gave up a first rounder and a second rounder. So there are some crazy prices out there, and we'll see how it all goes down. And there's the local angle as well, finally, as we wrap up our discussion about the acquisition of Jacob Chychrun. His dad's from Ottawa. I mean, he's got family here. I can't even imagine, again, maybe if he's a right shot and he hadn't had, some injury issues in the past, but that's just splitting hairs, completely splitting hairs, nitpicking. This is a fantastic deal, and you've got the local component to it as well. So across the board, 10 out of 10 for that trade by Pierre Dorion today.
And the other one is dad played in the NHL. Oh,
there you go.
Senators.
Yeah, if only, and he's born in America too.
Yes,
he's Canadian, but he's not. Oh, it's so perfect.